Today's topic is finding a guiding metaphor for your doctoral experience for the purpose of building resilience. I'm Anna. I'm an EDD candidate and also an International Coaching Federation accredited coach. So an overview for our time, we'll get a little bit of a background on metaphors and resilience, and then I'll share with you the metaphor that I've used. I turned in my dissertation in September, and woo! and then hopefully we'll have some time to hear from you as you brainstorm and identify potential metaphors that might work for you, and then hopefully some sharing. So metaphors generally, right? They're comparison, they're figurative imagery, analogies, things of that nature. But Wagner, and there's also a list of references on the handout, Wagner says that metaphors are not simply a linguistic or literary device. They play an important role in learning and cognitively organizing an understanding of the world. We had a great metaphor earlier today, the increasing your luck surface area, how much that like sparks such an idea. Mind map is kind of a good example of that. Not only that, but Paulson also says that increasing motivation, overcoming resistance, and facilitating solutions can be enhanced through the use of metaphor. And then if we think about what resilience is, I think doing a doctoral program can be very challenging, both emotionally and cognitively, financially. So the American Psychological Association defines resilience as the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, behavioral flexibility and adjusting to external and internal demands. And then a shorter definition from them from 2013 is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity. So I think that's a helpful nugget, that adapting well in the face of adversity. Goffin and Almquist wrote a really interesting essay where they analyzed metaphors for resilience within the field of public health. And they kind of describe the pros and cons of rocks, dandelions, and steel springs, which are commonly used metaphors or imagery for resilience. So rocks kind of provide this very clear, invincible, sturdy, classic, immediately understandable metaphor for resilience. But the drawbacks include that it kind of removes the humanity of the process of being resilient. And rocks are immune to policy change. Dandelions kind of conjure this idea of the flower that's coming out of the pavement, and kind of puts emphasis on thriving in an adverse environment. Sometimes it's kind of ascribed to the nature of the flower. They bring up this idea that sometimes children are alternatively described as orchids, so that puts the emphasis on the need for care and sort of takes away that environmental component. And then finally, the steel springs analogy, or like literally bouncing back, is the language that is sometimes used. That again sort of puts emphasis on the developmental process or the reaction to some kind of chronic or maybe more acute source of adversity. But that metaphor assumes potentially incorrectly that we just revert back to where we were before, and that we have some sort of unaffected state, and so that it kind of precludes any kind of growth as a result of the resistance. So those are just some an exploration of how the metaphors can sort of have different meanings around even the same concept of resilience. So I'll just share my metaphor for the doctoral journey, which is a metaphor in and of itself. I learned about Monroe bagging on my first weekend in Scotland, hiking essentially mountains. And so I found that hiking was a good metaphor because when you're hiking, particularly like switchback trails, you can't always see the path ahead of you. ostensibly you are advancing, but you might encounter plateaus or detours. So it kind of prepares you to expect the unexpected. And then recently I heard this quote. Actually, it was Anne Lamott on a podcast who was giving this quote from E.L. Doctoral, which is that writing is like driving at night in the fog. You cannot see, you can only see as far as your headlights, but somehow you make it the whole way. And that's chef's kiss for writing, and also sometimes for the research. You're not sure that where you're going, but hopefully you get there in the end. So when it comes to brainstorming your own metaphor, I think it's helpful to think about the sources of challenge and the sources of growth. So for me, real source of challenge for me in the doctoral journey was the uncertainty and the potential for failure. And then thinking about hiking as, or maybe trial and error or some other kind of metaphor where that failure and discovery is normal, helps me to sort of adapt to that challenge. So what are the most challenging aspects for you that you feel this doctoral program or your research project present to you? And what do you hope this experience will bring to you or help you grow through? Some other sources of metaphor that might, or ideas to add to the metaphor brainstorm. Wagner says often that metaphors are exploration, insight, or action. Craig's Rab says that they're process, outcome, or trait, and there's different themes within resilience metaphors like battle language or transformation. We've got chapters, seasons, pilgrimages, marathons, journeys, quests, sports analogies, creative processes, potentially religious imagery, analog professions, physical transformations like unlocking, curating, caretaking, shepherding, culturally significant stories or objects, lots of ideas. Oh, I don't see the chat. I see there's like 16. Anything else that we should add to this brainstorm of potential metaphors to draw from? You could put it in the chat if you have any ideas. All right. Sea navigation. Fairy tales. Okay. I don't know. I know that we're running late over in generally, but
I think we're okay.
yeah, so I'll just maybe give about a minute for people to kind of take have a think. What could be a good metaphor for you that would be helpful, thinking about the growth and challenge piece. And then I'd love to hear from people what their thoughts are.